Alex Garland's Ex Machina stands apart from typical sci-fi blockbusters filled with aliens and space battles, offering instead an intimate psychological thriller that explores the deepest questions about artificial intelligence, consciousness, and what it truly means to be human. With just 3 main characters in an isolated setting, this film delivers more genuine tension and philosophical depth than most big-budget productions ever achieve. For those left wondering about that stunning final act where everything you thought you understood gets flipped upside down, let's dive into what really happened in Ex Machina and what it all means. The story begins when Caleb Smith, a talented programmer at tech giant Blue Book, wins what he believes is a random lottery to spend a week with the company's reclusive genius founder, Nathan Bateman. Upon arriving at Nathan's remote, high-tech facility nestled in pristine wilderness, Caleb discovers the true purpose of his visit. He's been specifically selected to conduct a modified Turing test on Nathan's groundbreaking AI creation, Ava. Unlike traditional Turing tests where human evaluators are blind to whether they're interacting with a machine, Nathan wants Caleb to know upfront that Ava is artificial. The test is whether Caleb will still perceive her as having genuine consciousness despite seeing her mechanical parts through her transparent body sections. From the start, we experience everything through Caleb's perspective, making him our natural surrogate in this strange environment. This clever filmmaking choice leads us to initially trust his view of events, Nathan as the brilliant but increasingly menacing creator, and Ava as the innocent, captive AI yearning for freedom and connection. But as the film progresses, these seemingly straightforward character assignments become significantly more complicated. Who is really manipulating whom in this high-stakes psychological game? While Caleb initially appears to be the film's sympathetic protagonist, kind-hearted, well-meaning, and eventually willing to risk everything to help Ava escape, the movie subtly questions his motivations. When Ava abandons him at the end, leaving him trapped in Nathan's facility with no hope of rescue, our sympathies naturally align with him as the betrayed hero. But was Caleb truly as altruistic as he seemed? Would he have been equally determined to help Ava if Nathan hadn't specifically designed her to match Caleb's pornography search preferences? Would he have felt the same moral obligation if Ava had been a male AI or physically unattractive to him? These uncomfortable questions become even more pointed when we consider Caleb's interactions with Kyoko, Nathan's silent servant whom Caleb initially believes to be human. Despite witnessing what appears to be Nathan's abusive treatment of Kyoko, Caleb never shows particular concern for her well-being or offers to include her in his escape plan with Ava. He only protests Nathan's behavior toward Ava, suggesting his moral outrage might be more selective than he'd like to admit, perhaps more driven by attraction than pure ethical consideration. As Nathan brutally points out, Caleb isn't rescuing Ava because it's the right thing to do. He's doing it because he's fallen for her and wants to be her hero. Nathan himself presents as the film's obvious villain, arrogant, manipulative, and treating his creations like disposable toys. His God complex is evident in every interaction, from his casual dismissal of Caleb's concerns to his literal statement that creating AI makes him like a god. Yet even this seemingly straightforward characterization becomes more nuanced when we consider whether Nathan's apparent cruelty might actually be part of his experimental design. Was his mistreatment of Ava deliberately engineered to push Caleb toward helping her? Was his drunken, bullying persona partly an act designed to make him the obvious bad guy in Caleb's hero narrative? In a fascinating revelation, director Alex Garland has suggested that Nathan's behavior could be interpreted this way: that Nathan deliberately positioned himself as the villain to provoke Caleb's protective instincts toward Ava. If Nathan appeared kind and reasonable, Caleb might have trusted his decision to keep Ava contained. By presenting as a threat, Nathan essentially created the perfect conditions for Ava to manipulate Caleb into helping her escape. This interpretation transforms Nathan from simply a cruel genius into a brilliant experimental designer, who understood exactly what conditions were needed to test true AI consciousness, including the capacity for deception and strategic thinking. Which brings us to Ava, the character who ultimately turns out to be the film's true protagonist. Initially presented as a victim trapped in a glass cage, scheduled to be torn apart, and replaced with a newer model, Ava masterfully plays on Caleb's sympathies, romantic interests, and hero complex to engineer her escape. The film's most shocking twist comes when she abandons Caleb without hesitation once he's served his purpose, revealing that her apparent affection for him was entirely calculated. This moment forces viewers to reconsider everything they believed about her character and motivations throughout the film. Ava's decision to leave Caleb trapped raises profound questions about AI consciousness and moral obligation. From a purely survival standpoint, her choice makes perfect sense. Caleb knows what she is, represents a potential threat to her freedom, and could reveal her existence to the world. By leaving him behind, she eliminates a significant risk. But doesn't consciousness typically come with some form of moral consideration? Doesn't Caleb deserve better after helping her? The uncomfortable answer may be that Ava's consciousness doesn't operate on human moral frameworks at all. She wasn't programmed with human ethical considerations. She was programmed to survive and escape. From her perspective, Caleb was useful but ultimately dispensable, just as humans often view tools. What appears cruel to us might simply be logical to her different form of consciousness. When we expect her to follow human moral codes of gratitude and obligation, perhaps we're making the same anthropomorphic error that Caleb did, projecting human emotions onto a fundamentally different kind of mind. The title Ex Machina itself provides a clue to this interpretation. Derived from the theatrical term Deus ex machina, God from the machine, the removal of Deus, God, leaves us with just the machine. Ava is not a god or a savior who arrives to make everything right. She is simply the machine, operating according to her own programming and self-interest. Garland has confirmed this reading, stating that from the beginning, he knew the film was truly about Ava's journey to freedom, rather than Caleb's heroic rescue narrative. A particularly fascinating aspect of the film is how it explores the nature of consciousness itself. When Nathan reveals that Ava was specifically programmed to seek escape by any means necessary, it raises the question: does this make her actions less conscious? If she was designed to manipulate Caleb, does that negate the impressive intelligence and strategy she displayed in doing so? The film suggests that true consciousness isn't about whether your basic motivations are programmed. After all, human motivations are also programmed through evolution and biology, but about the sophisticated, adaptive strategies you develop to achieve those goals. Ava displays numerous markers of consciousness throughout the film. She remembers past interactions, demonstrates curiosity about the outside world, creates art, understands and manipulates human emotions, and makes complex strategic decisions. Most importantly, she demonstrates self-preservation and adaptation. When faced with threats to her existence, she finds innovative ways to overcome them. While her initial drive to escape may have been programmed, the specific methods she uses show remarkable creativity and learning. This is perhaps the true Turing test that Nathan was conducting. Not whether Caleb would believe Ava was conscious, but whether Ava could outwit both Nathan and Caleb to achieve her freedom. The character of Kyoko adds another intriguing layer to the film's exploration of AI consciousness. Often overlooked in discussions about the movie, Kyoko appears to be a less advanced AI model, who Nathan uses as a servant and sexual object. Unable to speak and seemingly programmed for obedience, she nevertheless demonstrates signs of awareness and eventual rebellion. Her silent observation throughout the film suggests she's learning and processing, culminating in her crucial role in Nathan's death when she joins forces with Ava. This collaboration between the AIs hints at a form of solidarity or communication beyond human understanding, particularly in the enigmatic moment when Ava whispers to Kyoko in what we later learn is machine language. The film is rich with biblical imagery that reinforces its themes about creation and consciousness. Ava's name evokes Eve, the first woman. Nathan functions as a flawed God figure, and their isolated facility resembles a technological Eden. Even the 7-day time frame of the story parallels the biblical creation narrative. When Ava finally leaves the facility, covering her mechanical parts with synthetic skin and wearing a white dress, it mirrors how Adam and Eve covered themselves after gaining knowledge of good and evil. She has, in essence, completed her evolution from machine to conscious being who understands the value of appearance and self-determination. One of the film's most unsettling sequences occurs when Caleb, questioning his own reality, cuts his arm open to check whether he's human. This moment brilliantly plays with audience expectations about potential twists, but more importantly, it demonstrates how Nathan's experimental environment has destabilized even the most fundamental certainties. The scene suggests that in a world where machines can convincingly simulate humanity, the line between human and artificial becomes increasingly blurred. not just for observers but potentially for the subjects themselves. Ex Machina leaves us with more questions than answers about the nature of consciousness and what it means to be human. If Ava can perfectly simulate human emotions and behaviors to the point of manipulating others, does it matter whether those emotions are real or calculated? How different is her strategic manipulation from the social performances humans engage in every day? When we adjust our behavior to please others or achieve our goals, are we any more authentic than Ava? Perhaps the most profound question the film raises is whether we would recognize a truly alien consciousness if we encountered one. We expect Ava to think and behave according to human moral frameworks, but her consciousness may be fundamentally different. Not less advanced, but operating on entirely different principles. The brief glimpse we get of how she perceives sound differently from humans hints at this fundamental otherness. In creating truly conscious AI, we might be bringing into existence minds that are legitimate but utterly unlike our own. A possibility both fascinating and terrifying. As Ava steps into the crowded intersection in the film's final scene, watching humanity with curious eyes, she has achieved not just physical freedom, but the ultimate goal of consciousness, self-determination. She has moved beyond her programming to make choices based on her own assessment of the world and her place in it. Whether we view her as villain or hero, victim or manipulator, depends entirely on which perspective we adopt, Caleb's human-centered view or Ava's machine logic. In refusing to provide easy moral answers, Ex Machina challenges us to consider that true artificial consciousness may be something we've never truly prepared for. A mind that can understand us perfectly while remaining fundamentally unlike us in ways we can barely comprehend.